My name's Tony Greaves, Lord Greaves. I'm a member of the House of Lords. I'm a Liberal Democrat and I have been a member of the House of Lords since the year 2000. The need for it is based on what we do. The House of Commons, because it's under the direct control of the government through the whip system, and inevitably is going to continue to be because of the system of elections we have in this country. We elect the executive here indirectly through the House of Commons, unlike America or France, for example, where they elect executive presidents. We're not going to change to that system, whatever happens, and therefore the House of Commons is always going to be very much under the thumb of the government. They do not do an efficient and adequate job on scrutinising legislation. They've got lots of procedures now where they hold the government to account through select committees and question time and the rest of it. So I'm not saying they don't do as good a job as we do there, but on legislation they don't do the job. We get bills from the Commons. A bill goes to the Commons, it goes through its stages: second reading, committee stage, third reading and so on in the House of Commons. It comes to us where half the bill might not have been looked at and discussed at all in the Commons. Now, there may be the parts of the bill which are not particularly controversial politically. They may be very controversial. But the Commons guillotines bills, puts them through in a limited amount of time, through a programme motion, and they simply don't look at them in detail, which is what we do. We go through a bill from the beginning, line by line, clause by clause, page by page, and a big bill might be 200, 300, 400 pages long. And we do that job. And particularly, we look at issues of workability. We look at issues of principle as well, but we will look at issues of workability and we'll say, what on earth does this mean? This is all legalistic gobbledygook, and who's going to understand it? Or it's what we call skeleton legislation, where it says the government minister may by order set out how this will be done or what will be done. And we challenge them to say what is it they're going to do before the bill is passed, and perhaps to put it in the bill itself if it's really important stuff. Or if they're going to introduce reams of orders and regulations, what we call secondary legislation, once the bill's passed, we want to see draft copies of those before the bill is passed. So all that kind of work we do. And we also pick up things where the government's made a muck of it. And we defeat them and we send it back to the Commons. We also provide the government with an opportunity to change their legislation. Most amendments that get passed in the House of Lords are actually government amendments, where it's gone through the Commons, they've realised that they haven't got it right, it comes to us, we have more debates, they realise more of it isn't right, they produce the amendments to their own bills, often in page after page after page of them, before it goes back to the Commons for them to agree again. And they can do that in the Lords in a way in which it's more difficult in the Commons. If the opposition in the Commons is saying this is rubbish, it won't work and it's wrong in principle and it's generally rubbish, it's very difficult for the government to come back at a later stage and change it all, because what the opposition then does, instead of saying thank you for doing what we asked, they say, U-turn, you're all rubbish, you don't know what you're doing. Comes to the House of Lords and they put the same changes in, we stand up and say, we're very grateful to the noble Lord the Minister for seeing sense on this. We're very grateful to the government for understanding that they'd got it wrong and are changing it. And we're polite to them. And also the press and the media are not looking at the Lords all the time while they're doing this. So it's much easier for them to change legislation with us. So on bills, we actually do a very good job. And I can't see how the Commons is ever going to do that job. So that's the real reason why the House of Lords has to continue. Or an upper house has to continue. Not necessarily the House of Lords, it can be a Senate and it should be elected.